I know it's a holiday weekend, so most people are probably packing their bags and getting out of town. Since most of you are lenders, it looks like, I'm curious, are you guys currently doing a ton of open houses with real estate brokers?
I do one at least once a month, and I have one agent who calls on me quite a bit because she doesn't like to be alone at her home, at her, open houses.
Sure,
So, mhm.
that's cool. What about you, Leah? Do you do open houses with your brokers?
No, I did one recently and we had no one show up. And I just feel like they've been real hit or miss. And I'm in a real rural area. That might be the why.
Okay. What about you two, Jessica and Brandy?
I would say I've done some in the past, but not a ton. I have kind of had the same thing where I don't know if they're not doing it right, but they don't have a lot of traffic. I have one that has a lot of traffic every single time. So I'm here to learn what can we do to up their game.
Yeah, I love it.
I have a builder that just got approval from she's the agent for the builder, just got approval to start hosting open houses in their homes that they have. So, and she's partnering with another agent that I work with quite a bit. So I just want to bring some more to them on maybe how those can be more successful. Is what I'm
Sure.
here.
For
I love
me,
it.
it's been price points and time of year. When we are doing I see more traffic in the fall and winter time than I have all summer. Like there, she hasn't had much traffic at all. And then also the price point, was always is always a big deal. The higher price point, I don't see much activity. The lower the price point, there's quite a bit of people.
Right, right. Yeah, it's interesting. A little bit about me. I've been in the business for 8 years. I built my entire book of business the first couple of years solely and exclusively off open houses. And I know that open houses are kind of looked down upon, especially with experienced brokers that maybe just think that opportunity, one, doesn't sell the listing. I think for me, the way that I see open houses is it's a farmer's market. Anyone been to a farmer's market? So it's like you really have three opportunities in open house. It's like it's an opportunity for marketing and branding. It's two, an opportunity for you to meet new faces. And then three, it's an opportunity for you to sell a product or provide value, right? And I think when you think about the framework of a farmer's market pop-up tent, you've got branding elements, you've got meet and greets, and then you obviously have a great opportunity to explain what it is that you do or what your niche is or what the product is that you're selling. And I think we've kind of lost track of putting effort into open houses. Most brokers are just throwing a sign out in the street, and maybe it's two, and they just kind of sit there and they wait. I think there has to be some type of intentionality and thought process to how do you essentially prepare for an open house. And an open house isn't just the day of, it's really like framing the event itself, and you kind of have to build it as an actual event. Like it's not just I've got 2 hours, I'm satisfying the seller. It's like, okay, what are the efforts that are going to get, like if you're hosting a wedding, right, you have save the date, and then you have the invitation, and then you have, all the things and, the events that occur up to the wedding, and then you have the wedding, and then you send the thank you cards. And it's like, you have to think of it as an event in your business. And for me, when you think about small business in general, especially people that are going to a farmer's market, that's how they make all of their revenue, right? Most of them are small businesses. And so they have to show up with some type of intentionality. And I think if you put that same mindset towards your open house, you can find success in any and all markets. Now, I'll be honest with you, I lead a team. I currently have 30 active listings. We hold our houses open every Saturday until they sell. And that means if no one comes or 10 people come, we still do it. And obviously when you're starting out, it's different than when you're, grinding like me and you have a huge, book of business that necessarily you don't need the activity. We do it because it's all about getting market share and creating conversations and generating leads. We understand that maybe the opportunity isn't going to sell that direct listing, That's not the goal. The goal is to convert other clients into prospective buyers and sellers. And so when I do my open houses and when I'm, teaching an agent to build their open house strategy, is I like to focus solely and exclusively on a 3-mile community. So oftentimes you see people, they'll go like, they'll maybe grab an older agent, or maybe when I say older, I mean experienced agent, where maybe they don't want to do open houses anymore, and they'll give their listings to these new agents to hold them open. That's fine. But essentially you want to find an area that the turnover is going to be frequent, so that you can grab any open house, whether it's your listing or another agent's listing, and stay within those 3 miles. So for me, when I think about my home community of Maple Valley, it's 3 miles and there's a lake in the middle. And so you have 169, you have 272nd, and then you have Whitty Road, and it's essentially in a triangle. So the way that I built my business is I was like, I want to sell homes locally because I can speak to neighborhoods and school districts and community things, and I can be the expert without having to learn an entire community. Now, that being said, I wouldn't take an open house if it didn't hit, the neighborhood had to hit one of those 3 streets. So essentially that my signs could be on one of those 3 main roads. And if you do that every single week for a year, every single person that's going to kids' sports on a Saturday, or going to a farmer's market, or going to do their weekend Costco run, or going to church, they are going to see you every single weekend. What they don't see is if it's your listing or not your listing. They just see that you're out there grinding and your signs are out there every single weekend. And so for me, what I used to do is I would put, if it was my listing, I would obviously not have to do this, but if it was another agent's listing, I would put my A board over the listing agent's sign. I would pull the flyers out of the box. And I think when we think about open houses, the most important thing is that we have to think about signage. So in my city ordinance now, there's a Brad Hanson sign policy where you unfortunately can now only have 3 A boards because I abused the signage code and they had to put one in place. But most markets don't have them. So my rule is you have to have 10 to 15 signs per door. You put your signs out at 9 a.m. in the morning with a topper that says specifically the time that the open house is going to be in play. That way, if somebody does a morning run to the grocery store on a main road, they're going to see your sign, they're going to know the time, right? And if they're coming back from church or they've got sports in the afternoons, they want to pop in. Again, you're just looking for anyone that might be interested in buying and selling in the next 12 months. That's the goal. And so essentially, when you have 15 signs, right, and they've got balloons on them and you have toppers that say the time, everyone knows what's going on. You can't be missed. And I think when you think about brand impressions, right, that is the whole thing is your sign, just like that farmer's market, your pop-up canopy with the branding is creating, an image to the consumer that gives you the opportunity for them to get repetition of who you are and what you do. And so for me, I think a lot of us, when we put out our signs, it's like, okay, we're just getting ready. We just finished 3 showings. We're going to throw a couple A boards out. We're going to eat a snack real quick. And then we're going to get into wait by the door. I think a lot of us are not preparing and presenting the marketing efforts that come with that to really make sure that we have people that show up. You know what I mean? I think a lot of us have lost track of, creating events on Facebook pages, right? So you literally go to your business page, you put in a Facebook event for that open house instead of it being a post. So that way, if people are looking at events, it'll say events happening near you. Now, it's probably, again, not going to sell the listing, but it's going to get somebody to maybe step into that home. And that's the goal. The other thing is that if it is your listing and you have an arm with a sign, every week early, I put my open houses in on a Monday and Tuesday so that by the week I get 5 days of marketing efforts to get anyone that might be looking at that listing to know the time that the door is going to be open, right? And so on the sign, it needs to have a rider of some sort that says, open house this Saturday or open house from 11 to 1, right? But put some marketing on the actual sign that's going to allude to what is the time of the operation. Yes, people are on the internet, but if there's drive-bys, that's still traffic. One other thing that I think is, kind of important is, what we do on a new listing is we will door knock the neighborhood and we will set a 1 hour parameter. So on new listings, Friday night from 4 to 6, we do a twilight open. But we market to the neighbors that the first hour is exclusively for them, right? Where they can come and get a sneak peek at the property because we know that they're nosy. We want to meet them. They're going to know who's selling, which of course we want to follow up. Karen has the same floor plan of, the Johnsons, and, we know that we can touch Karen on a market analysis because now we know that they have the same floor plan. So there's a little bit of like, I believe, laziness when it comes to open houses of just like preparing for the event. And I know these things take time, but a lot of us have time right now. Like, leads are down, we've got time to really show up and make an activity worthwhile. I think also doing a video, right, on your social media that says, not just here's the listing, but like you're standing in front of the house. I'm going to be at the house, this house specifically from Saturday from 11 to 1. I'd love to give you a quick tour of what you're going to see. I invite you to come. I'm going to have a lender on site, right? You're putting a little bit more effort into it. So again, my whole thing is focus on a condensed area that you are comfortable and knowledgeable about. Focus on the signage activities. Are you doing it with intentionality? Is your business showing up as an actual business? Are you thinking of like the mindset of like a farmer's market? And do you clearly articulate the time of the operation of the open house? The next step of the successful open house is focusing on registration. I don't know about you guys, but we know that 70% of realtors did not sell a house last year. And so most people are not doing a ton of private showings right now. And if you're like me and you want something that has 10 out of 10 things on your wish list, right? And you're going to pay a premium for pricing because of the interest rate, you're not going to bother an agent until you have an emotional connection to a property. So the door needs to be held open as many times as possible. But when the door is held open, you have to have a way to retain people's information. I think this is where we have a little bit of a struggle, is that people don't know how to ask for their information, right? Or they don't have a system to retain the information. So we use a tool called Spacio, that's Spacio, where basically we have an iPad. Excuse me. And when somebody comes in, we of course greet them. We, just have our banter. We introduce ourselves as who we are. We tell them a little bit about the house. We ask them, how did they identify the property, right? Was it online? Was it a real estate agent? Did they see the signs? Whatever the case is. And then we will invite them to, tour the property. And we just ask them before they leave, we have a survey that we'd like them to complete that we promise our client we will get every single individual that tours their property to provide them, the feedback. And essentially they have to put their name, and you can choose within this program whether the email is mandatory and required to be accurate or the phone number. Now you're going to have to decide, right? Brokers are going to have, a lot of brokers don't want to make phone calls, so they'd rather just email because it's easier, right? They don't have to deal with the rejection. So it just depends on what you want to do, but essentially you have one option. You can ask for both name and email, email and phone. But at the end of the day, you want to pick one that's a mandatory requirement for accuracy. And then it essentially just goes and asks a bunch of questions. So you can, the program itself has a template that you can just select from, or you can create your own. We've created our own where basically we want to know what was the source of marketing that they identified the property, right? So like, was it Redfin? Was it Zillow? Was it a sign? Was it an agent? If it is an agent, who is the agent that's in relationship with them, right? And then it's asking, what do we think about the price? Is it at, market value, below market value, or above market value? What is the condition of the property in their opinion, right? Other questions like, are they touring other properties? Have they submitted any offers in the last 6 months? What was their overall experience, good to not good, working with us inside of the home, right? And then obviously we get their information so that we can follow up with them. If you're not using Spacio, you can use an alternative method, which is called Home Pro. I don't love it as much as Spacio. We initially used that. It's the same thing. You could use an iPad. You know, sometimes people have easels where you can sit the iPad at the front door. I don't personally love that. If it works for some, they just walk around it. I would rather physically hand it to the consumer because they can't not take it from you, right? The other thing is you can go the old traditional route of just using a sign-in sheet. You know, earlier last year when the NAR did their crazy switch over, and you know we have a little bit more rules and regs. I created a nice sheet that essentially talks about the NAR settlement, and they have to register a broker. It's not because I want to solicit them, it's because I want to follow up with the broker. So if they are a ready, willing, and able buyer, I don't want to talk to them. I want to talk to the broker. Right. And I think a lot of times when we think about like the registration process, we always ask people, oh, are you working with an agent? It's just easier for them to say yes or no. Right. We don't ever say like, could you help me identify the professional that's serving you? Right. Or, you know, who is the broker that you sat down and did a consultation with? Right. So I think that there's got to be some framework of how you're positioning the topic to get the information. I know me as a strong listing agent at heart, I want to know who is the broker that's serving the prospective client. You know, some of the things that we do outside of the box, these are the things that I think that wow people, is having banners. Again, think of the framework of the pop-up farmers market, having banners that really articulate what your services are. So like in my book of business, we offer a full service listing guarantee that covers, you know, staging, cleaning, pre-inspect, 40 photos, drone, video, you know, our menu of service. But it's a nice pop-up banner that's illustrated in the home so that when they're inside of the home, they can see that the services that we offer, because as we know, 50% of buyers are sellers, and who doesn't love a good listing, right? Or maybe you know, have some type of guarantee that you offer. But I think there needs to be some presentation inside of the home of your services. The things that we do to wow people, you know, we're not big on a bunch of takeaways, right? So like oftentimes you go into an open house and you have like 17 different plexis and each one of them has something that you can grab. I believe the method of the madness is getting a QR code. A lot of the QR codes you can have them capture and they have to, or it will automatically grab their email, right? But can you make it easy for the consumer and or the broker that might be in attendance with the prospective buyer? Can they scan a QR code and get every pertinent supplement to that listing, like the actual pre-inspection or the seller disclosure, or maybe there's a survey on the property, or maybe there's HOA documents, anything that can be in one shop to move that prospect closer in the process, makes it easier for you, makes it easier for the consumer, and of course makes it easier for the broker. You know, we always do no prices on our flyers. We use QR codes again on our flyers specifically. During the open house, you should take the flyers away so that they can't grab a flyer. That way they ask you all the questions, right? But if you do have a QR code on your flyers, it shouldn't be, I think a lot of agents do this wrong, is they only have that QR go to the site for that individual listing. So my QR codes take you to the entire gallery of every listing I have for sale. Because if that listing doesn't work, I want them to go to another listing of mine, especially if you have 30 on the market, right? The other thing is I think that we could go a little bit better, whether it's your listing or it's a competing listing, putting together a free area list of homes for sale that's within that close proximity, whether it's 50,000 above that price or 50,000 below. If they're actually looking at properties, they're going to know those properties. But if you have it on your branding and you're showcasing 10 competing listings with the details in the MLS, but it has your name on it, they don't know if it's Karen's, Alex's, or Jason's. They just see 10 homes and your name on it. Well, if they want to see those properties and your name's at the bottom, the chances are they're going to call you. So don't put the open house times for those competing ones, right? Because you want them to call you. But the thing is that you want to show them the inventory. I think most of us know that when people are going to open houses, they're looking for the house, not necessarily an agent. Now, sometimes they are looking for an agent, but if you have the inventory and that's what they want at the end of the day, they're going to call you. The other thing is that I think that you do need to have some takeaways. You know, it could be something as simple as your buyer presentation and or your listing presentation. For me specifically, I like to keep listing presentations ready to go in my office, so we have 20 at all times. If I know that somebody lives 4 doors down, or they give me, you know, the street name and I got their last name, the next Monday or that following Monday, I will door drop the listing presentation with a card that says, "Thank you so much for touring 123 M Street. I enjoyed our conversation. I know you're not in the market yet, but I wanted to provide you with the list of services and give you a market analysis on your home. I will keep you posted when this home sells." Right? So I'm already telling them what I'm going to do, but I'm providing them with information on what I do. I think right now for you lenders, like if you're not, and I was talking to another lender earlier this week because he's trying to help a whale and provide value. If you're not providing 2-1 buy down flyers or 3-2-1 buy down flyers to every single agent that you partner with, you're doing a disservice to them, because it, one, helps the seller and it helps them. You know, it could be as simple as putting a rider on every one of their signs that says you'll give them 1% lender credit, or, you know, that you guys can partner and you'll, you know, the seller will do a 2-1 buy down if they use you, right? So that you have certainty. I really think that we have to get creative, but right now, like inside of the home, the biggest conversation that I struggle with right now is either the agent's doing business from 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. because they got a big girl and a big boy job, right, during the day, or it's an affordability problem. And if I don't have the tools inside of the home to show, tell, and educate on the actual affordability solutions that I can employ, you're not really helping me as a lender, right? And so it's nice to see what that conversation could look like. And a lot of agents don't, I mean, I know we've been talking about it for, it feels like 3 years now, but a lot of agents don't know how to write a deal that way, or how to have the conversation and show what's possible. And so I think, again, if you could create co-branded marketing for your agent, you know, every week, even if you were to share the listing on your stories or in your marketing, and then providing a story that shows what the opportunity would be, to help us get our listing out into the masses, I think is helpful too. But I think that the co-branded marketing flyer of a 2-1 and a 3-2-1 buy down really does help the conversation, or create conversation inside of the home regarding how can we make this opportunity affordable for a buyer. Because, I mean, let's be honest, that's the main challenge in the market. Does anyone have any questions so far?
I do.
Let's hear it.
All right. You're dropping some diamonds, Bradley.
Listen to you. I didn't even know you were on here.
Good Lord. All right. I've got 2 questions. One is, I love when you have a new listing, when you do the Friday night twilight and you open it from 4 to 6 and you give the neighbors the special, right, like first hour.
Yeah.
So you said that you promote it, right? You're doing all this like social media, you're doing the video. Are you actually saying you're open from 4 to 6, but only neighbors are able to come from 4 to 5? Like, how are you selectively selling that as a specialty?
Well, so what we'll do is on the door knocker itself, it'll say 4 to 6.
Okay.
But then at the top, it'll say early entry specific to neighbors is from 4 to 5. And so they get the first hour. And then what we have is we also have a sandwich board, an A-frame that also says early entry for neighbors. And we put it as soon as the home goes on the markets, which is Thursdays for me. We put that A-frame out first. So they see the sign and then they know early entry is happening, and then we door knock it.
Cool. Do you have like an image or something like that of what that looks like?
Yeah. I mean, it's a sandwich board, but it just says early entry for neighbors, and then it has the time.
Okay.
But yeah,
cool.
I can share what that looks like.
Okay, cool. And then my second question on the Spacio, which I love to give to realtors. What happens if you do get that open house? It's got so much activity and you're only one person, and you're like, you got people going upstairs, downstairs. You can't get to giving them the individual iPad to fill out. What do you do in a situation like that?
So my staff, including myself, we have these little rubber tote tubs where essentially it has, we call them our open house toolkits. And so inside of that, it has business cards, a couple buyer presentations, couple listing presentations. And then we have clipboards with stationary forms. So we'll just drop a couple clipboards and then we'll kind of just do more of, instead of talking to one consumer, we're talking to like the masses of like, hey, there's an iPad laying around. If you get time to grab that, if not, go ahead and fill out one of the old forms. And we try to get everyone, we're not in really the environment right now where that's happening, but every now and again we get a house under 500 in Seattle, and we'll get 20 people through an open house for sure at that price point.
Well, my last question, sorry, I didn't mean to consume, but I got to be out here in like 2 minutes. So like I told
No,
you.
you're good.
Do you ever co-brand a video for your open houses with a lender?
No, to be honest with you, Michaela, who we do a ton of business with, she does the stories, that showcase the 2-1 buy downs, and she'll always share our listings. She does support us right now. It's summer, and so we don't have a lender sitting in our listings. They're welcome anytime, but we do not do a video specifically for that. We do other videos on our social, which I know you know.
Cool, right on, awesome.
Anyone else have any questions on that?
Yeah, I do. Hey, Masa.
Hey.
How far in advance are you doing the event on Facebook so that people start seeing it? And how far in advance do you say pre-market stuff?
So we can't do coming soons in the Seattle market. So essentially I list all my properties Thursday by 5 p.m. So as soon as they go live on social or in the MLS, the event occurs, right? So if you're doing a Facebook event, right, you're making a specific event on your social media, I would do it simultaneously as soon as the property's live for sale. As soon as we go to set the listing, which is like all of the marketing, all of the booty baskets, we're putting out directionals, that's when we door knock. If it's a listing that's been on the market for, 20, 30, 40, 50 days, we try to get our listings in earlier as far as our times for the open houses, no later than Tuesday. And the reason we do that is because as you guys may know, most of these major listing websites like homes.com and realtor.com and Redfin or even Zillow, if there's a video and or an open house event or a price reduction, you're going to show up on the first couple pages of that platform, versus if you don't, you're kind of, right now with inventory levels, you could be on page 17 and you're just kind of back in the, in the back of the site. So anything you do to keep that listing on the first couple of pages, because you can know if you're swiping, whether it's for a house or a spouse, you get exhausted after, 3 or 4 swipes.
Okay, thank you.
Yes. Any other questions?
Hey, Bradley, I
we-
have one.
Yeah, let's hear it.
So, and on your pre-inspection, are you doing a full home inspection and hiring an inspector, and then you're having that available in your documentation and your documents that are on the MLS?
Yes. So we do pre-inspections on every one of our properties, complimentary of the seller.
And then you're using an inspector, and you're having that available for every buyer that comes in at the open house.
Yes. We, it's interesting because I know a lot of brokers that do pre-inspections do not provide the actual inspection report until a showing is completed. To me, I want to create urgency in all aspects of my business. And so I understand the thought process of like, well, I don't know how many people clicked on that inspection, right? To me, I want to create urgency, and the quicker I can get them information, the quicker they can make a decision. And as you know, most agents right now are working a big job during the day, and so they may not get till 5 p.m. So, I would rather have them have all of the tools and resources as soon as reasonably possible. Every agent's going to have a different strength. For me, if I'm really in a need for leads, I wouldn't have the QR codes available, and I would capture their information saying the seller's actually completed a pre-inspection. I'd love to email that to you. I need an email to get that over to you, right? So it's like, you got to kind of change your process for what works for you. But for me, like essentially, each one of us we're doing 3 to 4 open houses a weekend. I don't have time to send out, 10, 15 pre-inspections. I'd rather just let's move the baby. But again, you got to be good at getting the insight so that you can follow up. So it's like whatever is going to help you convert that lead. If it's get the email capture and then you deliver because you aren't good at giving the iPad and pulling your hands away quickly. Like you gotta work on the skill set that works for you. But there's no right way to do it. I just think for me, it's like I want to get them the information so I can move on. Great questions. Excuse me. Some of the other things I think that is a missed opportunity with open houses while we're not winning is that we don't really have a plan for what happens after the event. And so, you know, most of us have app-based phones. I should say all of us do, but does it make sense to set a group message, you know, with the buyer, excuse me, and yourself of like, hey, it was great meeting you at 123 M Street. Hope that you have a great day. I'm sure, you know, based on our conversation, you're going to tour a couple of houses. You've got a free area list of services. I'd like to shoot you over my app too. And then you give them your app link, excuse me. And then you send it over, right? And then you can have them have you at your fingertips, right? That's a one way to do a quick follow-up. The other thing is if you're using Spacio, you can set up drip campaign milestones that can go out at certain milestones, specifically immediately after the open. It says, thank you so much for stopping by 123 M Street. You know, as I mentioned, my name is Bradley Hanson, local real estate agent. You know, this is my specialty. You know, if this listing didn't work out or you have questions on it, please reach out to me directly. Here's a list of all of my active listings for sale. Or, you know, here's my calendar link if you'd like to book a calendar for an in-person or Zoom consultation, right? Like whatever you need to do to get that set up. One thing that we did a couple of years ago that's been beneficial is we have a 7-step process of what our process looks like. So they're little snippet videos. And if you go to bradleyhansongroup.com, you can click on buyer and seller and you'll see the different actual videos themselves. But essentially they're 1.5 minutes where they go over every individual step of the process. And then we created bomb correspondence emails that feature those 7 different milestones where we can hit them for 7 weeks. And then we have the same, so we have one for buyer and one for seller. So if we know that they're a seller, they're a buyer, but they're also a seller, we're going to get them on the seller first because most people can't buy unless they sell. And I want the listing, so that's where we go. But I think that there's got to be some type of follow-up. You know, if it's an opening weekend, our process is if we sell the house by Tuesday, so we go live on Thursday, if we sell it by Tuesday the following week, we're writing handwritten cards apologizing and thanking the neighbors for allowing us to have extra traffic. And I hope that, you know, we didn't cause too many harms to people's like cars and driveways and walkways, because some listings do, right? So it's like, it's kind of arrogant, but at the same time, we're kind of making them laugh of like, hey, I'm sorry, but like I sold your house in 4 days, you know, everything's going to be fine. I'll check back with you when it sells, right? And just doing a nice little handwritten to the 10 houses surrounding it. Because you guys know people are driving by, you know, and they're looking at the sign or they're snooping out the neighborhood, or, you know, they went to the showing but they wanted to bring it back and they're in the windows, right? It's kind of disturbing at a certain level. And so just a simple gesture of a handwritten card after the open house is a nice touch to those neighbors. I also think once the house closes, if you can identify any property in that neighborhood that has the same identical floor plan, you should be providing them with a market analysis immediately. Yeah, the just sold postcards are great. They're cute for 5 seconds and they go in the trash. I think a market analysis that says like, hey, I just sold 123 M Street. Here's what you need to know about your new valuation, I think is a way better intentional approach. So that right there is my kind of topic of how to win in open houses. Anyone have any other questions on anything? Or maybe something that you're doing that is good for the class?
As a lender, how can I assist when I'm present at these I usually just step back and allow the agent to do their thing and then wait for them to introduce me or whatever. So how can I be of service to them when I'm there?
Well,
besides the flyers.
As I say, besides picking up all the A words when it's raining, no, I'm kidding. I think being duly engaged, you know, anything I do is like, I want it to be a team, a unit, right? So, I think engaging and not just taking the back seat. I think if we understand that the agent is the problem on the other side of the transaction and affordability, like, let's just get right to it, right? Like, I want to know, if they're pre-approved, and like maybe that broker doesn't have the skill set to like really ask who's doing the financing. Focusing on payment. I think as a lender, like most of the time you guys are just solving complicated math problems. So it's like, where's their affordability? Like I think sometimes we are afraid to ask in different markets, like are they an active duty member, or are they, a veteran, right? Like, it's not discriminatory to ask that question if they've served, so that you can find the opportunity to tell them that, this property has a VA assumption. I think for me, if you can identify, like me specifically, I've got 30 active listings. Right now I've got 3 assumable products. I know that you're not going to get the assumption, right? Because it's already going to be held by the other servicing company. But if you love me and you want me to be successful, could you help me articulate that? Or the agent that you're representing maybe doesn't have the knowledge. Could you help articulate that program where we could get the property moved, right? If you help me sell more houses, I will help you get more loans. And I think that's the thing, like, even if maybe you can't do the product, but could you help articulate what that could look like from a lending standpoint in a flyer where there is something they can give to every person? Because, some of these assumptions, right, whether you're a VA, you can still assume it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, obviously the person has to give up their eligibility, but you guys get the drift. I think that like helping agents package the opportunities on every one of their listings is what I would want. I also think like there's a million of us right now that like, we're totally cool with you putting riders on signs. No one asked. Like, if you could put your rider on every single sign, those signs are sitting up, most of them, for 30 to 90 days. If the rate drops and they need a refi and you're in a neighborhood and that sign's been sitting there for 90 days and that person drives by every single day and they see your name, when they refi, they're going to need somebody. Yeah, they might call their current servicer, but there could still be an opportunity there. And I think the thing is like, I don't think we're really playing to win in our business, but we're definitely not playing to win in open houses. And don't get me wrong, I've sat at open houses where nobody comes. But that doesn't mean the neighbors didn't see me.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't mean that, 1,000 cars that drove by within that 2 to 4 hour window didn't see me. It means, somebody could see, like, for us, we're in, a couple master plan communities where I think we've been in that neighborhood every single weekend for literally every week this year. They know we're working hard. Even though we don't have the house sold, they know we're doing the work. Any other questions, thoughts?
Do you have any tips or tricks or scripts for when you get those people walking through the open house where you can tell they're like eyes to the ground, they don't really want to engage? Do you have any tips on how to crack those nuts, or get them talking?
I am more of just a straightforward person. So like when I experience that, I'm like, oh, are you playing shy today? Like, what's your deal? Like, I have no problem, just creating a conversation. I think the thing is that you just have to be charming and you have to find the common ground quickly. Like the first thing that they say, they talk about like, oh, we've been, what brought you in? Like, oh my God, we love this neighborhood. Why do you love the neighborhood? Like, you need to ask them 7 whys on that neighborhood, right? Like, figure out whatever the commonality is, compliment on dress, right? Like, if you like what they're wearing, if their kids are super polite, oh my God, you have such great manners. Like, whatever you can do to get into the conversation. It's not about the house. It's about them. And I think that's just like sales 101, right? We got to find the commonality and we got to just go hard on that. But also, like, don't be afraid of rejection. Like, to me, if their agent's not with them, I could be their agent tomorrow. And so I just, don't be afraid of the rejection. It's like you're not losing anything. And if you're there because you need to do 3 things: market yourself, obviously sell something, or give a person a value, something. Those are your 3 things. Like, you might as well try. I think most of us agents, we screw up because the first thing we say is like, "Hi, I'm Brad. Are you working with an agent?" But everyone just says yes. 50% of those yeses are really no's. Right? So it's like, just assume they don't have an agent. Some of my best success with opens is just, I'm like, "Are you knowledgeable about assumable loans? Have you guys, looked at any of those opportunities right now?" Because they brought up rates. And I was like, "Oh, like, there's plenty of rates at 5%, like, or even less than 3 to 5%. Are you guys looking at assumable loans?" Like, "Oh, what's that? Oh my God. You guys are working with an agent and they haven't told you about assumable loans?" And then I'll just give them a lesson on assumables and then say, "Does it make sense for me to send you 3 opportunities with assumable loans for you to take a peek at? Or does it make sense for us to get together on a consultation and talk about opportunities in the market to get interest rates below 5? Like, I have no harm. I go on a listing appointment too. I do it all the time. I'm like, "Oh, they didn't talk to you about like the median market timing? Oh, they didn't talk to you about the NAR settlement? They didn't tell you that 70% of agents didn't sell a house in the last 12 months and showing traffic's down. And the reason that we do this is because of this." I think that you can do it in a very respectable manner, but also just show your value and show their ignorance to educating the consumer on the opportunities. And I think if you come forward and you're professional in your presentation, you've got a good, strong brand, you're knowledgeable, and you're giving value at every opportunity you can, you will generate a lead, or they will call you when they are ready. I also think every single person that comes into any one of your open houses, if they own an address, they need to be signed up on home valuations. Because if you're not doing it, Zillow.com is doing it, Redfin is doing it, Homes.com is doing it. Like, you gotta get them the valuation from a local trusted individual. Any other questions? This is fun. No? Kyra, did you have a question? I think I said it right. I felt like she unmuted.
Hey, no, I'm just listening. I'm studying for my real estate license actually currently, so I came to just be a fly on the wall.
I love it. I love it. Well, hopefully you got a good nugget. I hope everyone has a great and safe and productive holiday weekend. If you need anything, we're here for you. Otherwise, I hope that I provided you with value, and I'm going to go sell a house. Have a great day.